Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Abby. I am the founder of Sacred Maternal Wisdom Method. I am a doctor of Ayurveda, licensed certified, and I specialize in women's health. We're here to present the understanding of your menstruation through the wisdom of Ayurveda. So here we have this called flowing in harmony. The first thing we need to do is understand what is Ayurveda. Yeah? So if we break down the word Ayurveda, Ayur means life. Yeah? Veda means knowledge or science. When we bring this together, this is the science of life. Another way that we can understand it is how we live in rhythm with Mother Earth. So Mother Earth has a steady beat. Yeah? And when we start to live with it in that same nature, we have a steady beat. However, in modern life, with the diet that we have, with the living conditions that we live in, ours starts to get scattered. And our rhythm is all over the place. And so it starts to unmatch that rhythm of Mother Earth. You know? We can see these rhythms in our own life through our sleep rhythms, through our eating rhythms, right? Through even our menstruation rhythms. Okay. So when we look at these rhythms, we want to understand your individual rhythm so that we can understand the science of your life. How do you come back into balance? That is Ayurveda. Now, this is an ancient healing science from India that is 5,000 years old. Okay. That is huge. Why? Because if we look at modern science, about every 100 years or so, it starts to shift, it starts to change. We start to realize, here is more evidence. We have to change our ways in which we do modern medicine. And yet Ayurveda has stayed the same over 5,000 years. So it is time tested. Okay. Now the mythology around Ayurveda is the photo that you have here up above, where the information and the knowledge came from the consciousness of Brahma and was given to Lord Dhanvantari and was given to the people through an oral tradition. So here you can see the Rishi telling its students orally what is going on, and then they transcribed it. Okay. Now, Ayurveda is also a complete mind, body, spirit approach to health and well-being. Okay, so we can not only just look at this physical body, we also have to look at the mind, and we also have to look at our own connection to Mother Earth, nature, beyond. Okay. Once all of these systems are working, we start to come back into that natural rhythm. And when we do, we have what we call is ojas. This is that feeling of vital energy. Yeah? When you wake up in the morning and you can pop out of bed. When you can go through your day without any energy dips. When you can fall asleep without any aids or having difficulty falling asleep. Yeah. These are just examples of how it feels like when we have very strong ojas. Okay. Now, Ayurveda is based on 5-element theory. Here we have earth, which we say is the most gross or the most dense. Yeah? It's the element in which we can really tangibly see. It has weight to it. The second is going to be water. And when we talk about these elements, yes, it is the property of water, but it is also the essence of water. So here, water as we see through our rivers and our oceans and through rain, but also the water inside of us, right? So the fluids of the body. Also, a watery mind can be flexible, can have more emotions. Then we have fire element, and this too is in the natural world and inside of us, in our bodies and in our minds. Then we have the air element. And the air element is getting a little bit more subtle. So here, air flows, and we can't really see it, but we can see it as the trees move or the plants move with the wind, right? So air really governs all of the movement in our body and in our mind. When we look at ether, this one's a little bit tricky. It is so subtle. Ether is the container of all of the other elements. Yeah? So that which is in between the earth, the water, the fire, and air, that is ether. It is space. Okay. So everything is made up of these 5 elements. You are made up of these 5 elements. I am made up of these 5 elements. The device that you are on, the chair that you are on, the walls around you, if you have walls around you, these two have all of these 5 elements. Now, they are in different ratios. Yeah? So that's what makes you unique. I'm unique. The chair, the walls, etc. That's what makes us individual. Yeah? This is a very key point to Ayurveda, because if we have a different elemental makeup in each one of us, then we have to look at your own healing protocol in a very individualized style. What I mean by that is, if I have uterine fibroids and you have uterine fibroids, we have a different elemental makeup. So our healing protocol is going to look different. Now, in a Western approach, everybody with uterine fibroids will get the same medicine, will get the same protocol. In Ayurveda, everybody's individual. Okay. Now, these elements, each one of these are made up of qualities. I'm going to move here. These are called gunas. Okay, so there are 10 pairs of opposing qualities, and this is going to be most important when we look at the medicine to choose for ourselves. Okay, so in each one of these elements, there's either heavy or light. So heavy, the opposite is light. Cold, the opposite is hot. Oily, dry. Gross, subtle. Dull, sharp. Smooth, rough. Dense, fluid. Stable, mobile, moving. Soft, hard. Cloudy, and clear. These are the 10 pairs of opposing qualities. And now these elements have their qualities, and you see, and now in the next circle, we have ether has most subtle and clear. Okay, remember, ether is very hard to even perceive because it is the container. Now, air is more cold, dry, light, rough, and mobile, moving. Fire has the qualities of heat. It is the only element that actually has heat. All the other elements are going to be cold, right? So it's the one with the heat, has the ability to transform. The qualities it also has is oily, light, sharp, mobile. Water is naturally cold. It's a bit heavier. It's smooth and fluidic and soft. Earth, now we are more dense, is cold in nature, heavy, gross, dense, stable, and dull. Okay, so what I really want you to see here is the difference from ether being subtle and clear and almost unperceivable, and earth being more of that dense quality. Okay, this knowledge is going to come later for when we look at choosing medicines. So, what Ayurveda also does is takes these 5 elements and puts them into 3 doshas. Okay, these doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata on the upper level here, made up of air and ether, very subtle. Yeah, the Vata energy rises up Okay, it has movement. Yeah? I'm going to give you examples and a little bit of what does that Vata dosha look like inside of us and inside our minds. Now, we have the Pitta dosha, and that's mainly made up of fire with a little bit of water. So when you think of Pitta dosha, think of fire. Yeah? The water is there just so that that fire doesn't burn itself out. There's just a little bit of a buffer there. Okay. Kapha dosha. This is made up of water and earth. Very dense. When we put water and earth together, what do we get? We get mud, right? So it's that solid feeling. Okay. So we are all three doshas. Why? Because we contain all of the elements within us. We have all of the 5 elements within us. So therefore, we have Vata, we have Pitta, and we have Kapha doshas. These are the energies through our body. Now, one of them is going to feel a bit more predominant for you. So you might look more Vata, or more Pitta, or more Kapha. Yeah? You might even look more Vata, but Pitta is very secondary. Or you might look more Kapha, but Vata is more secondary there. Okay. Don't need to know all of this information. It's just to give you a background of the foundations of Ayurveda. These 3 words, though, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, are going to be key ingredients when we go forth when we look into our menstruation. Okay. Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Let's look at what they are. Vata in nature, again, is the wind, right? Because it has that air quality. That air and ether is what makes up Vata. It's catabolic. So catabolic means that it breaks down. When it's balanced in the mind, we are enthusiastic, we're creative, the energy is rising in a very healthy way. We think about that movement in our body. This is circulation. This is our respiration, our inhales, our exhales. This is our elimination. This is also our menstrual flow, right? Because there is movement to our blood. It's also the nervous system. So the movement of our nerve impulses. That is Vata when it is balanced. Now, when we are out of balance, meaning that the ratio of Vata, the air and ether, has increased in us, then we get worried, overwhelmed, anxiety. You naturally can feel Vata rising when you think of anxiety and overwhelm and worry. In the body, because Vata is also a drying and cold factor, we get constipation, right? That extra air, that extra wind gives us gas. It dries out our skin. It gives us joint pain. Too much of that Vata in our joints. So, we can be naturally a little bit more Vata, but if we have too much Vata, that's when we see all of these imbalances. Okay. Pitta. Pitta, in nature, this is the sun, okay? That warmth, that energy that comes from the sun, that is Pitta. And it is metabolic, so it's digesting. Yeah? When balanced, in the mind, we have a healthy focus. We have strong discrimination, knowing what is right and what is wrong for us individually. It is also the sharpness of our intellect and our intelligence. In the body, think of that heat in the body. So here we have our natural digestive fire that breaks down the food. This is hydrochloric acid and enzymes. It is also our blood and our body temperature. Right? This is Pitta. Gives us that warmth inside. Now, when we have too much Pitta, Pitta has risen out of balance, then in our mind we're going to get more angry, more judgmental. We can feel very intense in our lives. Okay? In our body, when pitta is out of balance, we have too much heat, we get a fever. Yeah, you can feel the heat in us. You can break out in a sweat because of all that heat. That heat is pitta. Diarrhea is hot elimination. There is heat there. Acid reflux doesn't really need an explanation there, right? You can feel the heat even when you say acid reflux. And inflammation. Inflammation is also this heat that comes from pitta. Okay. So you may see a little bit of yourself in vata, you may see a little bit yourself in pitta, or you may see more of one or the other. And now we come to kapha, okay? Because you have a little bit of kapha in you too. So here, I'm just going to move myself up. In nature, this is the moon, this is the rain, okay? Even when I start to talk about kapha, I start to slow down and I ground my energy. That is that kapha nature. Okay? It is anabolic. That means it builds tissue. When it's balancing, in the mind it's nurturing, it's compassionate, it's patient. Their speech is slower and has pauses. That is kapha. Now in the body, this builds strength. It protects fat. It's the skeletal system, right? Think of that earth and mud giving us foundation, stability, solidity. Our muscles. This is all kapha in our body. So you too have kapha, of course. Now, when we have too much kapha, this means in the mind we can get greedy. We can have attachments, envy. Our mind becomes too dull. In the body, this can look like congestion or even extra phlegm that you get in the morning. That's kapha. Obesity, too much padding, too much tissue on our body. Remember, it's anabolic, so it's going to grow more tissue. And swelling. Swelling is a water retention. So here, again, that water element of kapha is building up too much. Now, all of these are dependent on what we eat, our lifestyle, and our way in which we walk in this world. How we treat our five senses. Okay. We'll get into that when we get into our remedies for vata, pitta, and kapha. So, before we even get into menstruation, we have one more thing to talk about, and this is very important. You have two constitutions. You have two elemental makeups of who you are. Okay. The very first one is prakriti. This is the one here on the left. It means the first creation, creativity, nature. What this means is, in Ayurveda, we believe at the time of your conception, so when the egg and the sperm came together, there was this spark of energy, we call that prana. And as that spark came, very interesting side note is that there is a photographer who actually took pictures of when an egg and a sperm came together. And when he took the picture, the light made this sacred geometry. They're beautiful pictures. You can find them online. In this moment, Ayurveda says you created an imprint or blueprint for yourself. And here it said, I have this much vata, this much pitta, this much kapha. This is my genetic factors. This is my karma, my life lessons. And this is my dharma, my purpose. Okay, so all of that is imprinted at the time of conception. Right? So here, the balance of the three doshas in your body that was present at the moment of conception. That's that imprint. Now, anything after the time of conception. So your time in the womb, your birth experience, your childhood, your coming into adulthood, all the way up to who you are now, makes another constitution, and this is your vikriti. Okay, so this means after creation. I have here influenced by all environmental stimuli after conception. So this is your current state. and any imbalances, meaning if you have too much kapha, too much pitta, too much vata, if they're showing up in the way of symptoms, right? This is your vikriti. So we're going to look at this through your menstruation as your prakriti and your vikriti. Okay. Here. So, vata balanced menses. Okay, remember this would be your prakriti. This is how you're naturally growing and unfolding. Here, your menstruation, naturally a little bit of air and ether, looks a little lighter. Vata people, when they're balanced, have a little bit more darker, browner blood, and their menstruation is going to last like 2 to 3 days. And it's going to come between 24 and 28 days. That's a balanced vata. You know, their menstruation cycles can be a little bit shorter. And then we have pitta. And a pitta balanced menses, right? When we're balanced, we're in that prakriti. This is a more moderate menses. The blood is going to be a bright red, right? Because it has that fire element, that fire in there. And it's going to last right around 3 to 5 days, well, maybe 3 to 5, 4 to 5 days. And it comes very regular, 26 to 28 days. Now that is pitta. Pitta is moderate and regular. Okay. Then we have kapha. Okay, kapha balanced menses, the prakriti, is going to be acted upon this water and earth element. It is going to feel a little bit heavier. The blood is going to look like more of a darker red blood. And it's going to last longer, 5 to 7 days. It could come also a little bit longer of a menstrual cycle, which is about 28 to 30 days. Okay? So here you can see the difference between a vata, pitta, and kapha menses. Now, let's look at how this is when we have an imbalance, when we have too much vata, too much pitta, or too much kapha. Okay? So these, again, are called that vikriti, that second constitution that you have that shows what's happening today and if you have any imbalances that are going on. So for vata, they're going to have a scanty menstrual flow. Now their blood looks just brown. They're going to have more menstrual cramps. And that pain is going to feel like a needle. Yeah? So like little prickly and like little needles, but can be very painful. The pain can also move. It can be in your uterus, in your lower back. It can be in your shoulders. When there's an imbalance in vata, you're going to have a shorter menstruation, around 2 days. Irregular cycle. Maybe you have a menstrual cycle that's 21 days and the next one's 24, the next one's 28, the next one's 23. That irregularity is vata. When you start to feel fatigued in your menstruation, this is also a vata imbalance. If you get any anxiety around right before your menstruation or during your menstruation, this is your vata imbalance. Constipation, gas, if you're getting generalized headaches, these are all vata imbalances. And lastly, amenorrhea, if you have skipped your menstruation. So if you've missed your menstruation for a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, this is a vata imbalance. The only natural vata imbalance that looks like is when you come into menopause. And that's later in life where you don't have a menstruation for about a year. That's the definition of menopause. But if you're having amenorrhea in your 20s, your 30s, and early 40s, then we're looking at a vata imbalance. Okay, pitta imbalances. This vikriti. Here, this is when we have an excess of menstrual flow. And the discharge feels hot. Yeah? For some of my patients, they will even see steam coming up. Right? And that is that hot discharge. There could be an unpleasant odor too as well. You might feel heat sensations in the body, the rising of the temperature. We naturally rise in temperature from our ovulation to our bleeding. And during this time, in the luteal phase, our body temperature naturally rises, so Pitta is there. However, if it's an increase of heat, and during your menstruation, this is a Pitta imbalance. Skin rashes, any acne that is happening, these are all Pitta imbalances. Think of that fire that's coming through the skin. Migraines, it's particularly around the temple area, are a Pitta imbalance. In the mind, it can look like irritability, short-temperedness, angry. No? Diarrhea, having, again, we talked about that before, is that heat in the elimination. Inflammation throughout the body, this is Pitta. And the feeling of intensity, either physically or in the mind, this is a Pitta imbalance. Okay, then a Kapha imbalance, put myself over here. Here, we're gonna have a sluggish menstrual flow. If you've ever had a menstruation where you're like, oh, it just won't come. And when it does come, it's not a full menstrual bleeding. That is a Kapha sluggishness, and it needs to be balanced. If you have any mucus in the blood, this is also Kapha. Any blood clots, yeah? This is when the blood starts to almost curdle and come out more in clots. The sensation of coolness, not totally cold, but coolness is Kapha. If you start to gain weight, going over a natural feeling of gaining weight through your menstruation, this is Kapha. Yeah. Water retention, we talked about this before, that swelling is also Kapha. Any feelings of nausea is Kapha. Your breast swelling, that too is Kapha. Feeling heaviness after eating. So if you ate a normal amount, not overate, and you feel tired and heavy, this is Kapha. If during your PMS or through your menstruation, you feel more attachment, more greedy or envy, this is Kapha. And then an imbalance in a Kapha menstruation looks longer than 7 days. So if your menstruation goes 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14 days, this is a Kapha imbalance. And then also, if you're feeling like the dullness of your senses, this too is Kapha. So what I want you to see in these lists is that Vata brings in shortness, irregularity, dryness in the menses. Pitta brings in the heat, brings in the intensity, irritability, and then Kapha, with that earth and water, brings in the sluggishness, the heaviness, the swelling. Okay, so you can see the difference between each three. So let's look at some remedies. Okay, Vata remedies. So if you're like, oh, yeah, mine looks more Vata for sure. You might have a little bit Pitta, a little bit more Kapha, but if you really feel like you have more of a Vata imbalance in your menstruation, then the medicinal qualities, now remember we had that whole list of opposite qualities. So for Vata, air and ether, we want to bring in the opposite quality. So air and ether is more light, it is clear, it is cold, it is mobile, yeah? We want to bring in the opposite. So in Ayurveda, we bring in the opposite for the medicine. So all of these remedies feel more dense, more warmth, oily, heavy, smooth, stable, yeah? It's like we want to wrap a warm blanket around that Vata. So when we look at it through the diet, we want to eat more naturally sweet, sour, and salty foods. And I want to emphasize that natural part, okay? So sweetness, yes, we can look at fruits, but we can also see sweetness in our grains, in rice, in oats, in amaranth, in buckwheat. We can see sweetness here. We can also see them in avocados, root vegetables. This has the sweet taste. And when we look at sour and when we look at salty, we don't want processed foods. We want natural whole foods. What we want to avoid or what we want to reduce in our diet is more astringent, more drying. So crackers, anything that has a crunch to it, has dryness to it, right? Because if vata is bringing already so much dryness in you and in your menstruation, we don't want to add to that through our foods. We want to actually do the opposite and bring in more of, again, those qualities you see above. So reducing that drying, the bitter taste, and we don't want to be overly spicy. Okay, we want to use spice, but we don't want to be too hot or heating. Because think of like a dry desert, right? When you get out there and it can reach up to 120 degrees, do you feel like you are moist and grounded? No, you feel dry and rough and cracked, right? So we don't want to add any more of that. So when we become too spicy, that's what can happen inside of us. Yeah. Now, we also want to avoid cold foods. Vata's already cold, so we want to warm everything up. Therefore, we want to eat all cooked foods. Yeah. Which Vata's already light in nature, and we tend to sometimes, when we're out of balance, go towards the things in which bring us out of balance. Why? Because we are sensational beings, and we tend to follow our sensations. Yeah. However, it is going to be the opposite that brings us back into balance, and when we come back in balance, then we have more of a clear mind, and we don't have to chase our sensations. So, eating all cooked foods, set the salads aside for now, set the juices aside for now, and eat some more cooked root vegetables and grains. Drink plenty of hot fluids. So this is warm water, starting your day with lemon water. Ooh, great for your liver, excellent to start your metabolism. Herbal teas are going to be great too as well. Make sure that they are non-caffeinated. Right? Because caffeine rises the energy. Vata already has rising energy. So we don't want to add to that feeling. We want to ground the energy. Okay. And then we also want to have meals at the same time every day. Because of Vata's tendency of being enthusiastic for life and having a bit irregularity, they can forget to eat. Okay. And when that happens, we bring in more Vata through our body and Vata through our menstruation. So we want to have meals at the same time. So I have two things here that are highlighted, routine and sleep. I have these highlighted because they are so, so important for Vata. Routine, set regular daily lifestyle routines. Okay? So waking up at the same time, you can even eat the same breakfast. You can do your work or your studies or your errands all at, having that set time, having your meal, your lunch at the same time, right? Really creating that routine, because within the routine, you're going to find your freedom. Yeah? You're going to find yourself healthier and happier. At first, it might feel like a struggle, because Vata kind of wants to be everywhere. They're the butterfly, right? But when we give them a routine, their health and their vibrancy comes through. All right, the next thing is sleep is very important for Vatas. So going to bed early and waking up with the sun. Going to bed before 10 p.m. and waking up with the sun. Now, if you naturally are going to bed at 1 a.m. every morning, then we don't want to say, okay, go to bed at 10, because your mind is going to be fluttering and you're not going to be able to go to sleep. So for 1 week, you go to bed 15 minutes early. So at 12:45, that's your bedtime. And then the next week, you may go a half an hour. So now your bedtime's at 12:15. And if you slowly work that over, in about 2 months, you're going to get to 10 p.m. And your body's natural circadian rhythm is going to match up with that, right? Remember, there's this natural rhythm to Mother Earth, and we are slowly bringing you back to that pace. When you do that, again, all systems turn on, and I 100% will tell you that that will change your menstruation. I have seen this with my patients and with myself. Okay, and then waking up at sunrise. So wherever that is in the world for you, that's when you would like to wake up. Okay, and then staying away from extreme weathers. I have here, wear a hat in windy or cold weather. Always keeping the head warm is going to be important. And then lastly, Abhyanga. Give yourself a daily oil massage. This is going to be lovely with sesame oil. Sesame oil has naturally a warming quality to it, and so it's very good for Vata. Now, when you are going to apply Abhyanga or the oils to your body, see if you can do it before taking a shower. Make sure that you're in a warm environment so it's not too cold in your bathroom, but it's a little bit warmer. You have a rug underneath you so your feet are not cold, and then you're going to apply the oil throughout your entire body. You can make rotations around your joints, and then on your long limbs, you can make long strokes. Okay. What this does is, one, it warms the body up, yeah, and two, it's also good for a spiritual protection too, as well, like an armor that you put on each day. Now let's look at Pitta remedies. Okay. So Pitta, having all that fire in it, it's hot, it's oily, it's mobile, yeah, it's sharp in quality. So our medicine is the opposite qualities. It is cold, dry, heavy, dull, and stable. And that's what we want to bring in. So when we look at our foods, if you have more of a Pitta imbalance in your menstruation, we want to avoid the sour, salty, dry, spicy foods. Sour has the fire element. That spiciness, of course, has that fire element. Yeah, and anything that's overly spiced. Yeah, because the Pitta person already has a strong digestive fire, and now you're adding more fire to it. Okay, so we want to avoid that. We also want to bring in and encourage more root vegetables, juicy fruits, and greens. These are the sweet and bitter. Yeah? Remember, again, the natural sweet, not necessarily the sweetness in refined sugar, because refined sugar actually increases the Pitta. Okay. We don't want to skip meals. Yeah? What happens when Pitta skips meals is that their digestive fire keeps running up, and they can actually get some acid reflux. In the mind, they can look hangry. Yeah? We want to do the opposite. Now, we also want to do, and I have this highlighted, is to do 20% less on the to-do list. Oof, Pittas, think about them in the mind. They are focused, they are determined, they have strong discrimination. They're the doers in the world. They're the achievers. They're the leaders in the world. So when they become too much Pitta, it becomes too intense, too narrow-focused. Yeah? And what they need to do is do the opposite. They need to let go a bit. And they need to do 20% less, right, on their to-do list. Less is more for them. That's their motto. I also have here laugh. Watch a funny movie. Don't take life so seriously. Go to bed by 10 p.m. So not before 10 p.m., but 10 p.m. And I want you to wake up 15 minutes before the sunrise. Okay? So again, remember Pitta naturally in nature is the sun, so we're waking up just before that. And I bet you, even if you're like, oh, I'm very sluggish in the morning and I can't wake up, if you wake up before the sunrise, if you have Pitta imbalances, you'll actually have that energy. Also, avoiding conflict. Pittas can get triggered really easily, and their fire can come up. So really taking that internal awareness of avoiding conflict. And then here, avoiding exposing yourself to prolonged heat. This can look like in saunas, right? This can also look like being in the sun. So here we want you to move into the shade. We want you to take less time in the sauna. If you're going to go into a sauna, only be in there until you get a little bit of sweat in the upper lip, and that is it. Okay. All right. So now let's look at the kapha remedies. Here, kapha, water and earth, right? So it is cold, it is heavy, it is smooth, it is stable, it is dull. This is the kapha, natural. So we want to bring in the opposite for the medicine. So we want to bring in hot qualities, light, roughness, mobility, and sharpness into the body, into the mind, through the diet and our lifestyle. So we want to reduce now that sweet taste. We want to reduce the sour and the salty. These all have that water element. The sweet element also has an earth to it too. We want to reduce the oily, heavy, cold foods, right? So anything that's going to have too much water, feel too heavy. What we want to enjoy is actually more spicy foods. Yeah? So we want to have that heat. We want to have that bitterness and light foods. Quite different from vata, quite different from pitta, right? Here I have also, we want to have regular exercise, and this is highlighted because kaphas naturally want to be more sedentary. And so we want to bring their energy up. All their energy is going down to the earth. We want to rise that energy. So we want to have regular stimulation, regular exercise within your ability, right? In mobility and in energy. Okay. Now, also be active in the community, have fun, meet new people, right? So a lot of times with kaphas, they want to be reclusive, they want to stay indoors. So we want to encourage them to go out and meet people. Now we want to bring in more heat and stimulation, so using saunas or sitting out in the sun is going to be great for kapha. Again, I only recommend about 10 minutes out in the sun, so you get enough vitamin D for the day, but not any more than that, because we also have to protect our skin, this very vital organ that we have. Okay, when we look at colors, we want to enjoy bright, strong colors. So this is going to be red, orange, yellow. What this looks like is looking at these colors in nature. This could also be wearing these colors too as well. This too will be a kapha remedy. We also want to wake up 30 to 60 minutes before the sun. So I talked about that sluggishness. If you wake up with feeling heavy and just can't get out of bed, we first have to make sure, well, it's like, is it because I only got 3 to 4 hours of sleep and I'm exhausted? Or did I get 8 hours of sleep, but I'm waking up at 8 a.m. and I'm feeling sluggish? That sluggishness, if you've had enough sleep and rest, is because, one, you have too much kapha. In another sense, kapha, we have a time in which kapha represents, and that is that early morning. So you're waking up in this kapha time. So we want to wake up before the sun, when the energy is a lot lighter. And even though you're like, oh, I'm getting less sleep, you will have more energy. Lastly, avoiding naps. Whenever you think of a nap, oof, your energy draws down to the earth. Great for vata, but for kapha, we want to, again, bring that energy up, so we want to avoid napping. Okay. So we looked at these remedies through food and through lifestyle. And I 100% guarantee you, if you make 1 or 2 of these shifts and changes, it will make a drastic change in your menstruation, right? So what we are eating, what we are doing in our life, our cycle will reflect. And so our cycle, when it has symptoms like amenorrhea or heated sensation or a dark brown blood or extreme swelling, right? Any of these symptoms, are a way in which our body is communicating to us. And so we need to listen, and understanding Ayurveda and understanding the doshas and what is happening in your menstruation will give you a language to start speaking with your menstruation. Okay. So here are my 10 suggestions for optimal menstrual health. Here. First is daily contemplative practice. Okay, so meditation is going to help you connect into a deeper peace inside, meaning a quieter space. And when we are quieter, we can start to listen to the body's signs. Yeah? And so you can start to hear, okay, this is what is happening with my menstruation. Here is my cycle. This is what my follicular phase looks like. This is what my ovulation feels like. This is what my luteal phase looks like. Where am I getting the most symptoms? And when we get quiet, we can start to listen. Also, meditation starts to slow the fluctuations of the mind, which then also slows down our aging process, right? So what that means is we have a linear age, which is the year, the date, the time, right? So you can say your birthday is ... That is your linear age. But then you also have a biological age. And this is determined by how much stress there is in your life, how much you have aged because of it, what is the diet that you have, how much are you taking care of yourself. Yeah? And a really excellent way to reverse that biological time, and you can, yeah, you can reverse that. Meditation is an excellent way in which to do it. Okay. The second one is to tune into your inherent instincts and insights, right? So here, when you are feeling tired, I want you to rest. When you're feeling hungry, I want you to eat. When you need to urinate, I want you to urinate. So not holding any of your bodily urges and instincts that it needs. Right? This too will keep you in touch with your natural rhythms. Okay, 3, embrace the dawn, retire with the dusk. Right? This is a very old, wise one, and we just talked about this. This is going to quickly transform your menstrual health. Is really optimizing your sleep hygiene. All right, so the 4th is opt to nourishing foods that are supporting women's well-being. So steering clear of alcohol, staying clear of caffeine, unhealthy fats. 5, tailor your workout regime to your individual constitutions and capabilities. For someone who has a vata imbalance, they're going to do less impact. For someone who has pitta, it's going to be more moderate. For someone who has kapha imbalances, we want to have more stimulating. Okay? And understanding your own ojas. Remember that word ojas from the beginning was our natural vitality and energy. So if you wake up in the morning and you have it, then great, you can use that. But if you're not feeling vital, you have to listen to that space as well. Number 6, practice self-massage with therapeutic oils on a daily basis. So we talked about this for vata, using the sesame oil. Yeah? For pittas, we're going to use more cooling oils like olive oil or coconut oil. And for kaphas, we're going to use more stimulating like mustard oil. Yeah? And a lighter application. But this is an excellent way to, 1, get to really know your body by touching your body. And then also giving the qualities to your skin. Again, the biggest organ that we have that is digesting these oils and bringing in those qualities, the opposite qualities, as medicine. Number 7, foster harmonious connections to uphold emotional well-being. Okay, so here, nourish yourself. And take time out with those who you really love. That is about keeping your light alive. You know when you have that spark of light inside of you and you feel overjoyous and you feel wonderful with it? Know who you want to share that light with, okay? And then spend time with that, so really encouraging that emotional well-being. Number 8 is acknowledge and address any negative thought patterns and seek assistance if necessary. Okay? So how we are in our emotional well-being are patterns that we have on our bodies. And our menstruation will instantly reflect that. So if you have a stressful month where work or family or life just got to be too intense, that will affect your menstruation. So we want to make sure that we are addressing these patterns. We are calming the mind down, and we are seeking assistance. We're seeking help for this. Yeah? Know that you are not alone, and that we all have these things that we need to work on, including myself. And it is so more of a loving pathway when you can seek assistance. Number 9 is to nourish your senses. So we know this world through our 5 senses. And I'll give you an example. If you take away my hearing, I go deaf, my entire reality changes. You take away my sight, I go blind, my entire reality changes. Right? So how we see and sense this world is through our 5 senses. So we can either take in harmonious things for us or disharmonious things. When I have a vata imbalance, when I have too much of air and ether in me, and my menstruation is only a day long, it is a dark brown, and I'm getting severe cramping, okay? Do I want to listen to heavy metal music and eat light foods and watch extremely violent and intense movies? No, right? We want to do the opposite. We want to have our senses taking in soothing sounds. We want to have our eyes taking in soothing, beautiful views, right? We want to be eating more of those warming and grounding foods. So looking at all through our 5 senses and bringing in the opposite to bring us in. Now, with that said, everything is a medicine and everything is a poison. So that heavy metal music might not be good for vata, but for kapha, who is feeling sluggish, lethargic, not having enough energy, their menstruation is sluggish, it is long, it is 9 days long, right? It is mucusy. Then we want them to be listening to more of that stimulating music. However, we need to be strong in our intuition to really know what is right and what is wrong for us. So everything is a medicine and everything is a poison. It's just determined by what does it look like for you. Okay, and then lastly, what everybody asks me for is herbs. Yeah? And they too are very important. Yeah? Our lifestyle and diet, I would say, is the most important to shift because they're the ones we have the biggest resistance around. We want to just take the herbs, but we really don't want to go to bed early, and I really don't want to change my diet. I just don't have time for that, right? But those are the biggest contributions. And then we can take herbs to support our body to start to make those shifts. So here are some herbs like shatavari, ashwagandha, gokshura, ashoka, mustaka. These are here to fortify and revitalize the female body. Okay. Now, please consult your Ayurvedic doctor or practitioner for dosage and make sure that it is correct for you. Okay, so here I say, may this bring any type of awareness for you and harmony to your flow. And I thank you so much for being here, and I'm grateful for your presence. Thank you.